This episode of the Pain Education Corner is sponsored by the Comella Foundation. The Comella Foundation is committed to relieving pain naturally using osteopathic healing principles. Here at the Comella Foundation, we envision a world where people achieve their maximum potential by being empowered with knowledge and skills to heal themselves and others. This information is to be used for educational purposes only and not to be construed as medical advice. If you have any questions or concerns, please consult a licensed healthcare professional. Hello, it's Bill, the Knee Pain Guru, and welcome back to the Pain Education Podcast. And we also have a returning guest, good friend, personal friend of the Comella Foundation, Emmanuel Manolakakis out of Toronto. What's up, Manny?
Good, man. How are you, Bill? All well?
Doing good, yeah.
Awesome. So good to see you, man. So good to see you. It's nice touching base every once in a while with you and checking out what's going on in your side of the world.
Yeah, there has been some things that I've been tweaking and adjusting, working on in the background. And I know you're always tweaking and adjusting stuff, working, growing, which is awesome. Sure. So I just thought we'd revisit a conversation, talk about what are your current trends of things that you're seeing, you're learning, you're seeing in psychology of people, pain, whatever.
So, of course. So in Toronto, about the last 2 months, we've slowly opened up our, opened up restrictions and eased restrictions. Because Toronto had some pretty strict restrictions for a while. So I was doing a lot of online classes. Now for, let's say, the last 2 months, people have been coming in and training at the Fight Club, right? So, and we're talking the adults, the kids, my archery program, martial art all of it's there, right? It's all back, but it's reduced, so to speak, but it's still back. And so now I've just been observing, how students interact and how they've been since we've been gone, and how they've benefited from some of the online classes now translating into the live classes in front of people, right? And then just trying to listen. That's, I think, a key component, right? Just listen and see how people are. And so there's one thing that I've noticed, so in myself and also in them. I don't know if you've noticed it, so maybe we'll find some commonalities. But so I've been into like you go through martial arts, it's a very physical experience, and then after a while it becomes like a psychological experience. You start understanding ego, fear, like it starts to become those kind of things. And then as you go on, it becomes a little bit more internal, some sort of spiritual practice that you start to realize that, oh my God, these are bigger lessons that are being taught to me, right? And so for me, spending quiet time as part of my day is very important, because you can't hear ideas if there's too much noise in your life, right? Like that becomes the problem. So I'm a big person of just kind of quiet yourself for a bit, kind of, create a benchmark, silence the noise a little bit, right? And these practices have been around for a long time, but maybe within the last 5 years, you see more of the meditation, mindfulness stuff. I've seen bombarded with that. And it's funny doing that before it was popular, doing it as I discovered it, right? So I've always known about distraction, and I've always been pretty good at mitigating that and just kind of living in the middle of a distraction, but kind of quiet. So from my own personal practice, I've realized that it's actually really hard to stop distractions, even for myself, like more than 5 years ago. Like I'm realizing it. I'll lie down, I'll sit down, and I'll try to just focus on my breath. And I don't know if you get this, but you'll get people that will say, oh yeah, I can just focus on my breath for 5 or 10 minutes. And I start laughing. I go, man, you couldn't save your life. If I said your life depends on it right now, you couldn't just focus on your breath for 5 minutes. Yeah. It is so, what I've realized, I thought, I was like, oh yeah, I was there. Yeah. I completely focused on my breath for 20 minutes. And then as I started to go around as you get around the real good masters of this stuff, the real good spiritual people, the real good, doesn't matter from what discipline, you realize I can't do even 5 minutes. And so did I get worse? No, I just finally found, the truth finally hit me. What I thought was quite is not it. Right. So, and how this connects to some of the stuff you're doing is because you're trying to bring attention to something, and it's a very deep level. Like I remember when you were working on my knee, you're touching my knee and you're saying, do you feel that shift? And at the beginning, I'm like, what's Bill talking about, man? Like, what, earthquake? Like, what do you mean shift? And then all of a sudden, I would feel stuff moving around in my knee. And I'm like, yeah, I do feel that. You know, I do feel that. And so part of distraction is getting people so that they can feel what they need to feel, or get the proper ideas of what they need. So I've just realized that it is, I mean, we all agree that, you know, we live in a pretty distracted society, like no matter cell phones or media, like, come on, there's no doubt we're distracted. But I don't think people realize the degree right now. Like, it is not like, you know, it's a tsunami here, right? Like, it's a tsunami, you know. I still remember, I so, well, this is, you know, however this is going to come across, but remember we did some training in the forest, right? We did some training in the forest, and I have a lot of good, you know, and, you know, we go out, we're in the forest, we're all like badass martial artists, you know, going from like a dojo where you get military pants on, you know, and we get out there
in
camouflage, you know, like we're trying to hide. We're not trying to hide. We're trying to be anyway. So here we are, you know, everybody's in this forest, and it's fine. I'm not making fun of it. It is listen, things I thought were cool in high school, I look back and I'm making fun of them now. They were not, you know, like it's
the
not
mullet.
it's the mullet and stuff. So here so here people are you know, in this, you know, training in there, and I come back and I meet this military guy that I've been training with for years. I'll leave the name out of it. I haven't seen him for years, but he looks at me and he goes in a very quiet voice. It's a combat veteran. He goes, Emmanuel, quiet voice, like only a mob boss can do. Do you know what happens in a forest? And he pauses. It's like, I don't know, man. What I mean, well, lots of things happen in a forest. He goes, and he clears his throat exactly like this, Bill. First, if they know you're in a forest, they napalm the whole forest. Then Apache helicopters come in with machine guns and mow down anything that's standing. Then they send in the military if they know you're in the forest.
Yeah.
And it was this dawn. I'm like, it just hit me. I'm like, how we're missing some information in what we're doing, right? We're completely, this guy was not distracted.
Yeah.
And so when I say tsunami, think about that. When you think, people are like thinking, oh yeah, we're in a forest and we're lost. Or like, yeah, we're distracted, which is how I see it. Like, this is the analogy I'm trying to make. No, that forest has been napalm. The trees are mowed down. Like, we are so distracted. It's a disaster. It is that level of disaster in our minds for people. They can't stop. I would say the average person right now could barely silence their mind for 30 seconds. Just focus on breathing, nothing else. So not even complete stillness, just focus on breath coming in and out, and you watch how your mind cannot stop. And that's so scary, because then you're missing the most important way of catching wonderful ideas or sensing the problems in yourself. How will you do this? How will you do this? How will you get in front of a guy like you, like such a good medical person? They're going to come to you and they won't be ready. Like, if you do, how, I mean, it's not that they can't come. It's just, how will you get the most out of it, right? Like, I can't imagine showing up to my varsity rugby tryout, not having put in the time in the summertime in the weight room and on the track. I'm just going to show up to make a team just like that. I'm going to show up to come meet somebody as skilled as you on the medical side and just say, okay, I've just had a cheeseburger and I've been playing on my cell phone for the last 6 months.
Right.
What will we do? What will we discover? What will we discover?
Right. Yeah. So I got a great story. This is SYSTEMA related, awareness related, quieting the mind related. So I've taken my daughter into the woods ever since she was a baby. We've always walked in the woods. And as she got older, she'd talk a lot. And I'd be like, shh, be quiet. Just be quiet. And as she got older, 5, 6, into 7, she'd tell me, Dad, I have lots of things to say. And I was like, okay. So last weekend we were in Kentucky, and she had some friends that went into the woods with their parent, and they're walking in the woods, and these girls are just screaming and yelling and hitting trees with sticks and all sorts of stuff like that. And it was a perfect opportunity to teach my daughter how to be quiet, because in order for her or for us to move up and sneak up on her friends, she had to be quieter than they were.
Makes complete sense, Bill.
Oh my God, it was amazing. But the lessons that she learned, the lessons that she got out of that experience was phenomenal, because now she understood what it was like if you're just screaming and yelling and going through the woods and talking and not paying attention to anything. And when you're quiet and you hear what other things are going on. And I think what you're alluding to, what you're referring to, is just we're all walking around in this life at different levels of awareness on different things. What are we hearing and able to pay attention to? And what are we oblivious to because we're too loud, internally loud, because of all these distractions to be able to notice what's going on?
Yeah, I know. You gotta still yourself. So that was one thing I've noticed. It's just the level of distraction. I don't have a solution quite yet. I know, like for myself, it's like I don't reward an outcome. I reward the effort to it. So I don't care. Like I do win many medals in archery competitions and different things. They don't mean as much as people might think to me.
Right.
I reward the fact that I practice every other day. I don't sit there and say, oh, you're this kind of instructor. No, I've been practicing every week for the last 25 years. That's the reward to me. It's not the thing. So if you're constantly being distracted, you'll never be able to understand some of those finer points. You'll miss what is the value here. So distraction is a big one, and we all agree, but I'm just going to tell anybody listening to this, the amount is really scary. Like this is the part that's worrisome. Like this is not like it's pretty big, and the person that solves this is going to be really an important person in the future. So and it won't be an app. The other thing, reflection. Go ahead.
Yeah, before you get on that, what that reminds me of is when we did the work with either 6-on-1 in SYSTEMA, 6 people attacking you with one person, and how you had to avoid getting attached to one person if they hit you or kicked you or whatever that was. And how can you continue to breathe, move, and relax in amidst all of that chaos that was going on? Like that, when you're saying that level of a distraction, because that's what I see what's going on, how we could bring it down to that, keep your head on that, where you're not flipping your head all over the place, but keep your head stable in amidst all of the movement in your body, your arms, your legs, everything else. That just is the epitome. And I think the solution has already been created. I think that experience of taking that meditation or prayer or whatever you want to call it and creating it that baseline of how you operate, and then see what comes into that, like the pebbles that are being thrown in the calm pond. Like, oh, I'm calm. Oh, that pebble just fell in the water, which is the email I got or the phone call I got or the text thread or whatever it was.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's there's so many analogies to that multiple attacker drill. It's one of my favorite. I like it for different reasons than people think. I actually love that drill because I don't have to worry about making a mistake because nobody would see it. So it's so good. So I could feel completely free. I feel completely free in those moments, and everybody should, but it takes some practice. The other thing is I see a lack of people's ability. Like what I'm noticing is their ability to reflect and really sit there and say, okay, so I've learned something, right? I've learned something, or I've seen something, or I've been moved or pushed somehow. And I need just to reflect on it, not have an opinion, just
Mhm.
reflect on it. Like
Mhm.
somebody tells me a question. One of the best things to do is somebody gives you a question. Don't answer it right away. You're not being a prick
Mhm.
about it. Just think about it.
Mhm.
Just think about it. And I guarantee you, what you thought about it in the first 5 minutes, in the first hour, in the first day, in the first week will change completely for you. So
Mhm.
if nothing, that same question, somebody said, Emmanuel, you're an ass. Okay.
Mhm.
I think about it for 5 minutes. It means I think about it for an hour. I think about it for a week. And all of a sudden it's like, you see it differently. Even the same
Mhm.
question, I didn't even attempt to answer. The ability to reflect and how it goes deeper and deeper into you, right?
Mhm.
Is something I see missing. I often ask people, I said, so what did you learn, or what were your reflections on that? Right.
Mhm.
And um people can't give me that answer. And you know how I know, Bill? We would be we in the class, very common in Systema. We at the end of a class, we sit down and we talk
Yeah.
about what we've learned, right? I don't know if you've noticed it, but for myself, I just noticed students not able to reflect even in that short period of
Mhm.
all that was learned.
Mhm.
Again, going back to distraction, it's like there's a lot going on in class, but there is some really interesting lessons.
Mhm.
And if you're not able to pull them out, what have you been doing? Well, you've been just, if I say everybody go on the ground for 1 hour and just wrestle, you should be able to reflect on what that learned, not just the sweat, and how there
Mhm.
should have been something that came to you,
Mhm.
right? Some sort of a reflection. So for myself, I mean, you often hear about people writing. I love writing just for the motion of it. And I
Mhm.
find that once I get my thoughts down on paper, so it's one thing. I mean, it's one thing to write, and it's another thing to reflect on what you wrote.
Mhm.
So it's like I begin my day and I think about what I have to do, and then at the end of my day, I reflect on it. And they rarely ever completely coincide, right?
Mhm.
It never goes like, you have a let's say a party at your house, and you invite this and this person, and and then party goes in a different way. It's like, wow, I never saw that one come.
Yeah.
so it's so your ability to reflect is a big one, I think, for me, because it says that you're able to take something out of something,
Mhm.
right? So I don't know, and it's like it's no different than if I go for treatment from you. It's like you do something to me, and I'm living at that moment, but then I reflect on how my leg felt a little bit warmer after it was with you.
Mhm.
I felt since like being around certain people, you reflect and say, what made that conversation with that person so wonderful and so free? How was I
Mhm.
able, and then how was somebody else, another conversation not go so well, right?
Mhm.
I was reflecting on a conversation I had a while ago with somebody who was trying to sell me something. And I was amazing because I reflected on it. The guy was actually really slick salesman. Like he
Mhm.
really,
Yeah.
he slipped stuff in there, like stuff I didn't need, but I saw it, but it was very smooth. And in reflecting, I wasn't mad, because you could easily get mad at something like that. But I reflected, I was like, that's some crazy ass sales skills. That was really
Mhm.
smooth. Like really like, the way somebody did something. So I could be an athlete and some guy pull off a really tricky play, and I could get upset about it. Or
Mhm.
I could sit there and go, man, that's good. That
Yeah.
was good. Yeah, like that was good. I didn't see that coming. That was good.
Yeah.
And if you're not able to do that, then you're not deep enough, because you got to be able to appreciate some stuff. Right? Get in sports. There's some plays like, man, it was. I still remember some of them were like, yeah, that was good, man. I didn't see that coming. And if you're not able to clap at that moment, you're missing something, right? So reflection's a big one for me. How about yourself? Have you seen that lately?
Yeah. I've UFC.
Oh yeah, which one? I haven't watched
Yeah.
it too much.
There was one this past weekend. There was a
Yeah.
it was a for one of the belts, the
Okay.
divisions, and these two guys it was personal in terms of their animosity with each other. And this was the second time they fought. And it
Mhm.
was Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. And they're very,
Okay.
one guy's Nigerian, the other guy is all MAGA, pro Trump, so it was like this very much, they played that whole thing up very well. And it was personal. Like they were not joking. And this was the second fight. And the Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian, beat the guy twice. They fought 50 minutes. Like the first fight was 25 minutes. Second fight was 25 minutes. Think about it. They beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah. It's a long time.
For 50 minutes.
It's a long time, man.
And at the end of the fight, at the end of the second fight, they got to a place of going, you have an admirable foe here.
Yeah.
That has shown up for that length of time and gone after it. So there's like this
very
respect.
impressive.
Like the deeper unpacking, like what you're talking about, instead of it just being a
100%.
fight, now it's like, who else is going to show up to test my skills at that level, at the best in the world? And I think that's where people miss is they're too involved in the conflict, whatever it is, like the guy with the play and he fakes you out and it's a trick thing, or the salesperson. And you're like, man, that was really good.
Yeah.
Where you just gotta laugh.
No, yeah, and there's a good movie, the Borg McEnroe. There was a movie last year or a year or two ago about the rivalry between Borg, the two tennis players, and McEnroe. It was, you got to watch it. They couldn't stand each other. There was so much animosity, but guess what? They were each other's best man at their wedding. Like, think about that. They made each other better, and you need to come to that place when you're working with people, right? So So this idea of being able to reflect on, I guess, a bigger picture and a micro picture and the whole, but being able to reflect, like, what does this really mean? What is this really saying, right? Like that's cutting to the core, because movements mean things. They mean things, right? There's if you ever watched a Greek wedding, okay, I've seen others, but an Orthodox Greek wedding, or Russian, I guess, anything, or there's so much symbolism in every single part of that ceremony is symbolic of something. Everything, the symbolism is so important. And I think people sometimes forget that movement patterns in yourself can elicit those things as well. Breathing patterns. Think about what breathing patterns can elicit in the body, right? So I think people lack that ability of, what does this really mean about you? What does this say about you when you do that, or when you say that, or when you think that, or when you act that way? What does it really say about you, right? And I've had this conversation with a few people. You look at somebody's desk, kitchen, it's so much reflective of actually where they're at inside. It's really scary sometimes, the stark reality, right? It really is. So when I go to somebody's house there, everything is very neat on the kitchen, I just mess it around. They just watch. They can't stand it because it doesn't reflect how they are in their mind. Or go to somebody who's got a messy kitchen and try to clean it up. They're like, hey,
easy.
Go try to get in my head, man. Back off, man. You're getting in my head, okay? You're not going to change me.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Pain Education Corner. If you have a special talent or skill to relieve pain and you'd like to become a guest on our show, visit us at thecomellafoundation.org/interview. Help us spread the word on eliminating pain and suffering in the world. That's thecomellafoundation.org/interview. You know what's interesting, and I think about this, of course, Pain Education podcast. Everything you're saying on a deeper level applies to pain. 100%. Everything you're saying, the knee pain, the neck pain, the shoulder pain, the whatever it is, back pain, is the challenger, is the adversary, is
100%.
Well, like it's there to bring out the best in you.
And actually, as you're saying that, I've got a rib out on my behind my shoulder blade on my right side, and it's been nagging me for about 2 weeks. And I'm the same. I'm like, I know it's there. I know it's got to get popped back in. I just know it. I'm working through it. I'm like, no, and I finally tapped on the guy. We're gonna get it popped back in. That's enough. I can just see. But I love these things because I will take it as far as I can go. meaning I really try to work with it. Massage, foam roller, ball, people step on me, and it's fine. But becoming friends with pain, like that's a huge one. And that listening to it, which is something you taught me a lot of ways, is like not scaring the pain, but just saying, yeah, it's cool. You're there, you know, and that's so special for me. And, you know, because I not hide it, but I've been dealing with it for so long that it's just, I don't give it any more attention. It's like a crying kid. I don't give it as much attention. I know it's there, and you just, and all of a sudden, in most cases, it does go away. But I know the ones that don't. This one needs some attention. It's funny you're saying that. I'm like, yeah, no, this one's got to go.
This is good. So we have a Provilo set up here.
Yeah.
For those that don't know what a Provilo is, I'll leave a link in the show notes demonstrating what a Provilo. Arsini out of New Jersey has helped us a lot with
It's awesome.
So about 2 months ago, I had a SYSTEMA instructor out of South Carolina. You know, Nick Sadie?
Yeah.
Nick, yeah. So Nick's been coming up and we've been working out once a week on the Provilo, just stretching out. And then afterwards we walk on each other, you know, doing the walk, start on the feet and work progressively up the body. And about a month into it, I started working with the breath and moving in specific areas that were exceptionally painful. And I had this one spot, same spot you were just talking about, between your shoulder blade and the spine. The rib was out, but it was a sheet of like scar tissue that has been there ever since I could remember. I had the shoulder pulled out of the socket when I was 3. So I don't even know what it's like not to have that sheet of scar tissue there. And it ties in with ribs, and it ties in with vertebrae, and it ties in with breathing and tension, all the tension patterns that we're talking about. So about a month ago, I had Nick, who's not a small person, goes about 250.
Hefty.
Pretty face, nice smile, great personality. He's got big bones. Anyhow, Nick is standing on this spot, which is like, my eyes are crossing. It's so painful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And what I did, and this is really cool, try this the next time the rib goes out, is I started breathing and I started moving. I started moving my hips, my arms, everything. And it was crazy. It was almost like finding the combination to how it needed to fit back into place through the movement, through the breathing. And I had stuff pop that I didn't even know could pop.
Nice.
And I got up from that. It was ridiculous how significantly different that felt back there. So anyhow.
That's awesome. So so anyway, so back to this, which is such an amazing, I find our injuries. So we go on, we just talk about them. They're so much fun. And it's like every time I see a new one, I was like, wow, man, I didn't see that one. Anyway.
Yeah.
So reflection, that's been a big one. And then the one I've been really playing with the most is, so when you I think back to, like, let's say, I don't know, 100 years, maybe less for sure, where, think of the big world wars, World War I, World War II, and you asked young men to go in harm's way. And in many cases, it was nothing but a risk. Everything they did was risky. There was nothing safe about anything they did. Think of D-Day, think of that. There was nothing. The whole thing was danger. And yet we asked them to take all those risks, right? And then complement that with what we're doing now, where we're asking people not to take any risks, right? And so we look at the impacts of when you make people just jump into risk and when you have no risk, right? This whole concept of risk, and what has that done for us in our evolution? Because think of it, if we're on an island and I look over there and there's another island, well, how do I get there? I can't swim. So I'm going to risk hopping on this log that hopefully will drift me to that island. And then we start to, so risk helped us become explorers. We were curious and we risked I'm going to jump over that chasm because I think there's more over there, or there's more food, or there's more animals, or there's more shelter. And risk is such an important part of who we are as people, right? And when you remove that, you have to look at the effects of that. So, you know, we sterilize ourselves, like we, you know, now with COVID, we wear masks or whatever, we sterilize our hands. Well, but we need a robust immune system. So how do we reintroduce that? Like, how do we get bacteria so that we still have a strong immune system? We don't weaken ourselves, right?
Right.
So, you know, and these, there's so many quotes, you know, that we could reflect, but it's caused me to rethink this idea of risk and how important that is to development of kids, how important it is for us as adults to not be fearless, that's not it, but to take a good risk. Like, to know when to take a good risk, right? Otherwise, we're playing so safe. There's no way. Like, I'm trying to imagine sports. Who would accomplish anything without a little bit of risk? I don't know. Like, you realize it'd be a really boring game. You know, somebody risks dropping it, or somebody risks an incredible throw, and something happened. This is some really important things we have, right? And I think that, you know, and in the martial art world, for sure, in health and personal development, it's so important for us to be able to understand, not just risk, not just say, okay, well, I'm going to go bungee jumping. It's not that. It's a proper risk. Like, what is a good risk, right? Like, I can tell you for myself, there's been 3 or 4 different risks I've taken where, when I first started SYSTEMA, I was just recovering for the first year of a bad knee injury. So I had the complete reconstructive surgery on the right knee. And I was like, I love martial arts, and I had sustained the injury in rugby. And I thought my martial art career will be pretty much done. But then when I found SYSTEMA, I knew it was risky because it's very organic, but I felt that this had a lot to teach me, and it was worth the risk. And then that, you know, that's one. And then there's others with the Fight Club. I had a stable job, everything was great, I had a career but then, you know, here was a club I had opened up to train in SYSTEMA, because I didn't have time to travel as much with young kids. So I started out, and then it just kept growing. And then it came, do I leave my stable job for a really risky, like many martial art clubs open up and fail within the first 2 years. It was risky, but I said to myself, you know, on my deathbed, would I ever regret this? Would I regret not working at a busy phone company more? No. So I was worth the risk. I said, I'm going to take this risk and see what happens. Both those things changed my life in the most positive and profound ways. You know, and those are just 2 they're poignant, but there's many risks I've taken, and good ones I felt like I was grounded. I need to take this. It wasn't just a random risk. No. We're not talking about being fearless or careless. We're talking about, you know, there comes a moment, you know, young men know that, we know, hey, there's a beautiful woman over there, I want to go talk to her. You know, I could risk being humiliated in front of my friends, but I'm going to go talk to her. And then that changed your life, or it gives you something. Like, I don't know. There's so many of these that we just have to know when to take them. And the distraction, and if you're distracted, you won't see that. And if you can't reflect, you also won't see that. And the reflection, both those pieces were important to me. They were so they all tie into this ability of, like, understanding that we need risk. I get it, why our society did, or why the world had, please stay home, don't go anywhere, and lock your, I get the whole idea of being risk, but I look at the kids, and I posted this a while ago on social media. You know, I said to parents, I go, you probably should start writing your apology letter to your kids, because you know, how will we reintroduce kids to the idea of risk? Because how will you accomplish anything without risking? How? I think of my parents, literally went from Greece, immigrated to Canada in the 60s. They didn't speak English. They had no money. They were in a country they had knew nothing of. The climate wasn't the same. The people weren't the same. But they left, because there was no opportunity where they were, and they risked and came here. And would my daughter, my son be able to do that? Because that's coming for them. You know, the world that they're inhabiting is not going to be the same as ours. It's not going to be like, okay, I'm going to go live in Toronto. They're going to be able to work anywhere in the world.
Right.
They're going to be able to, oh, you want to live in Guatemala, you want to you want to operate a bit, you're going to be able to work anywhere. Their work is totally different, you know. So will they be able to know how to take that good risk? This is worth it. This is a good risk, right? Investors know it on different levels, right? But how do you know the life version of that? You know, people call it a gamble, but it's not necessarily a gamble, right? Anyway, sorry.
I think it's people equate risk with danger. Like, oh, I can't take the risk, or they want to avoid risk altogether. But I think what you're referring to and what I hear you saying is a mitigation of the risk, reduce the risk as much as possible, and then make it take a chance from there. And what I see happening with people is they don't do enough research beforehand to then take the risk that they're going to take. They're like, for instance, people with knee pain. I've tried everything. Nothing works. And there's a disconnect between like the research that they've done there. It's pretty narrow in scope in terms of what they've looked into. So you can get pretty jaded or feel slighted that the medical model doesn't have an option, and that you tried everything maybe in this little box, but there's a lot of stuff out there that you could begin working with. And I think that's what you're speaking to, like with your parents coming from Greece, coming over to Canada. You know, there certainly was a lot of risk in doing so, but I guarantee you there was some things that they prepared before they left their village and got on a boat or plane and traveled over. So I don't think it's like this blind thing that they just go wandering and ended up in Canada.
No. It wasn't completely blind. And some risks are thrust upon us, right? Like we have no choice, right? It just happens. But, you know, but we need to see it as something. Like that, think of it as an evolution theory. Like, how important was that? Like, be able to trace it back. Like, people got to, like, remember we were talking about this before. I said before there was fasting, there was starving. Trace it back, guys. It's not something cool. Before there was cold water dousing, people were freezing outside.
Right.
Okay, think about it for a second, right? So before, like, risk isn't just danger. We needed it to evolve. We wouldn't be able to do anything without risk. You're just going to sit in a hole, saying safe from predators, but you need to go outside to get food. You need to go you risk something, right? And if you ever, some of the listeners might be familiar with Nassim Taleb, the author, and Black Swan.
Oh yes.
So, and what was his famous quote? Right? It was, "Do you have any skin in the game?" That was his quote. You don't have any. He can tell the level of success by how much skin you have in the game. So how much do you have to lose? How much risk do you have? And that's good. The more you have, the better a positive outcome, because you got skin in the game. You're vested. You know, if this guy needs to run 100 meters faster than you, and he needs it to eat and stuff, like he's the guy. The guy that has more skin in the game is the one that usually comes out, right? And that's risk. There's risk involved in skin in the game. So it is not just a fancy word or something to mitigate. It's an important part. We can't get rid of it. It's an important part of. So I've been looking at that a lot in training, especially. Like, how safe have I been playing it? You know, how important is it that a musician or any athlete or any person fail like a little bit? Otherwise, you're playing it safe. If you're always succeeding, you're not challenging yourself. You know, in grade 1, you know, I asked the teacher, how do you know when to give a student a harder book? Like, how do you know when they're ready for the next level, right? And you'll often hear teachers say, well, if the student can just read the book straight out, guess what? it's too easy. If they stumble over 5 to 10 words in a page, the book's a little too hard. If they stumble on 3 to 5, that's probably a perfect level. Like it's not completely, most people just do things till it's perfect, but that's not the perfect level. The perfect level is where you're making some mistakes, because then you're learning and then you're growing. So you need to find that barrier. You can't stay in your comfort zone forever. You got to go just a little bit outside. Like, I love watching a sports team that is very comfortable at one level, go to the next level, struggle, and then get better, like, and grow and grow. That's what you're looking for. So risk is that little bit of uncomfort, which is so important for development to grow. So I've been looking at that a lot with students and club and myself. So it's been interesting because it's living in a kind of a very safe environment lately. I mean, it's funny. People ask me about martial arts. I go, how can you study martial arts if you have to keep 6 feet apart? It's really kind of funny. Let's wrestle from 6 feet apart. Come on, Bill. Anyway, those are the big things I've been working on, and yeah, interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, there's so much to all of that to go deeper on, and this is, for those that are watching, this is what Manny and I are talking about as far as unpacking and going deeper. It puts a little, seed of information there, and then you kind of, and this could be their homework.
It should be homework.
They could take this and see how they feel about it when they first hear it, see how they feel about it in an hour, see how they feel about it tonight.
Yep.
And tomorrow and next week. And it's interesting how you can look on those things and continue to evolve and change your thinking around whatever you heard initially.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, man. Oh, that's, I mean, there's always little stuff I'm reading or tinkering on, but I think if listeners can look at distraction and reflection and kind of think about risk in a different way, I think those are huge topics, and maybe there'll be some insight and get a lot out of all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's good. This is good stuff.
Awesome, man.
Oh, anything else? What are they? What's the current prognosis up there in Canada? What are they going to open up?
I think I saw it the other day, if not yesterday, that the borders are open from Canada, US, to go as long as you're vaxxed. Like, apparently we have to, I don't know the other way. I know that they explained on the news, from us to go down there, as long as we show proof of vaccination, we can cross the border. And I think, I don't know if they're talking specifically like driving. I think it's both driving and air, from last I saw. But how about you guys down there? How's it where you guys are?
Oh, there's
I guess
a lot
it's
of
different.
It is. It is different. There's
what I mean was to say different, like from state to state, like, like there's so much variation, right? So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it is different state to state, and there's quite a bit of pushback right now in terms of people resisting any sort of mandates or passports or any of that kind of stuff.
Of course.
Regarding that. So we'll see. It's
yeah. Well, I mean, I think we'll know a lot by January or by the holidays. I think people know a lot of the state of affairs, but I think it's safe to say it's going in a positive direction. So everybody hopes it goes that way, and that's it. I give up the idea of like new normal. I really find that funny. Like, we're always changing. I don't know how normal things, like, I don't think, forget about COVID, like, just the rate of technology changes off the charts these days. It is just incredible how fast things are changing. It really is daunting to keep up, and I think you really gotta, if you're not making a conscious effort to slow things down, it can go by you so fast.
Yeah.
Really go by and ask yourself some deep questions about, why am I doing this? Why am I watching this? Why am I listening to this? Why am I doing this movement pattern? Why am I, like, all that stuff? And just see and ask yourself. Be surprised at how little you actually need to be happy. It's really interesting for people. Like, what when you carve it down, there's really not a lot. Like some people might think, but yeah. I'm liking what you're doing with your hair, though. It's really nice. It's really it's suiting you. It's really
great.
I was thinking about that. I wonder how many people compliment Bill on his hair.
Not many.
There's some great hair. You've got some great hair, man. Yeah, it is. It's nice, straight, thick.
Goofy guy.
I can't listen, man. If you can't laugh right now,
did you just try to come into my kitchen and mess everything around?
Yes,
Is that
I
what
did.
you did?
Started to move stuff around. I did it the other day, actually. And for all of you for anybody listening, that if I'm coming to your house on Christmas, watch out, because I am going to bring a little Christmas ornament that you don't know where it came from, and I'm going to put it in your Christmas tree, and you're going to turn to your wife and say, "Who the hell put this here? Who brought this? I don't know. Who did? What do you mean you don't know? Who? You didn't buy it? I didn't buy it. No, I just magically appeared up here."
Is it Christmas pickle? Is that what?
What you got to get is, you got to get an ornament that speaks to you. You ever see those recorded ones that people get for kids? Like it says "Happy Birthday." You know, they'll say, the kid will say something. You
Yes.
get those, but you say your voice.
Oh.
And then the person hits the button and says, "Why is Emmanuel wishing us a happy birthday? Why is Emmanuel wishing us a Merry Christmas?"
That's good.
See, watch out, man.
Yeah, my dad got my daughter a chicken dance card for her birthday.
Awesome.
She presses that over and over and over again, and he's like,
yeah.
I talked to him, and he's like, "I'm really glad she likes it."
So you remember? So how old's your daughter now, Bill?
8.
So think of Olivia. It's first year university for her.
Oh my gosh.
That's how much time has passed. I know. I meet a lot of people that ask me, like, "Yeah, Shop University." They're like, "What?" I go, "I know, man. Trust me." It was like, for those listening, Olivia, I started the Fight Club one month before she was born. That's how I know these benchmarks are like, wow, it's really daunting. Like, the Fight Club is almost 20 years old, which is crazy. Yeah, I know. I sit back, I'm like, holy God, it was like yesterday. I still remember it. Oh God. Time flies, man. Enjoy it. That's a great age. That is a spectacular age. Yeah, it's really good. So enjoy that. Enjoy it for everything it's worth, and get into the woods and sneak up on things.
Yeah.
And maybe bring a bow. Yeah, bring a bow.
Yeah. Well, we were actually going to napalm. We were going to napalm the forest. And bring in Apache helicopters.
That's the most important.
Yeah.
Anyway, man.
We gotta keep
moving.
Gotta keep our priorities. Manny, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you. Miss welcome, you, man. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. I miss all you guys for sure, man. It's but it's still good. We're still connected, so that's awesome, man. We'll have a good drink when we see each other.
A couple.
Okay.
Thank you, Manny. Thanks everybody watching. A Pain Education podcast brought to you by the Comella Foundation. This is Bill Paravano, the knee pain guru. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, Bill.
Thank you for tuning into this week's segment of the Pain Education Corner. Join us next week for another conversation on natural healing methods to eliminate pain. To learn more about the work we do at the Comella Foundation, please visit our website at the Comella, COMELLA, foundation.org.